Today I thought I would update you on our very first renovation, our first home that we purchased back in 2000. It's an amazing morning here in Wellington, one of those rare amazing mornings. So we've brought the kids to the beach. I've still got the old Darko boot on the foot from the lawnmower cut. Can't do much.
Oh, but my wife has looked after me and bought me a chair and a coffee and suggested I bring a book. Cheers.
I kept a timesheet while I was doing the reno on that house, and all up logged over 1,000 hours of my own time working on that place. I vividly remember a point in the renovation where I was standing on one side of the house and I'd gutted all the inside. I could see all the way through the lounge, through the kitchen to my son's bedroom. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? Now I have to put this all back together. We moved out and I worked on it full time for 3 months. We were able to stay with Katie's parents. And we had a pretty firm deadline because Katie was having a baby. Hey, so it's the day after that beach video. So we had our son, Levi, obviously, he's running around. And we managed to put the house back together. Here's a few clips. The kitchen was one of the major items on the list to be done. When we first got there, it was really pokey. Literally, this, and what you see in this photo here, was the only bench space. The crazy thing was there was 4 doorways in and out of the kitchen. Each doorway chewed up not only bench space but cupboard space as well. So what we did is we moved this whole big pantry unit to the other side and we put a new sliding door in, and then we closed in 2 of the other doorways, and that meant we could create this U-shaped bench. Also, one of the things is I'm really passionate about reusing as many materials as possible. So we kept all the kitchen carcasses. I got the bamboo bench from Auckland. We got the appliances in a deal of Trade Me. Someone had bought them for a kitchen and couldn't use them anymore. Another major thing the house was lacking when we first got there was the bathroom. It was tiny, it was so small, it was like less than 2 by 2 squared, and it did not have a bath. So we were putting Jacob in this laundry tub for baths. We moved the entire hallway about 1,200 to the left, and we shifted the hot water cupboard, and that meant that we could pull the bathroom back, and we got a bath at the back, and we retained the wooden floorboards in that area as well. This is the point where I want to talk about some of the lessons I learned in this reno, my big takeaways. Takeaway 1 is you need to have a clear brief. When we first got there, we wrote down all the things that first jumped down to mind, but we didn't rip into them straight away. We actually moved in and we lived in the house for, I think it was about 4 to 5 months before we actually committed to the reno. We got a feel for the place. Then I engaged Luke from Prime Designs and we drew a plan. When you start to involve other people, they start to put their interpretation on what happens. And one of the concepts we looked at, we were pushing out walls left, right and centre, but part of our clear brief was that we wanted to pay the mortgage off. And so as much as we wanted to improve the house, on this side we had this reverse goal of wanting to pay the mortgage off, and at the time it felt like a constraint, but in hindsight it meant that we focused on the essential. We did what we had to make that place nice, but we didn't do work for the sake of doing work. So understanding, what's the end goal with this? We don't want to renovate this house and sink hundreds of thousands into it just for the sake of it. Wanted to end up with no mortgage, and so everything we did had to balance these two. They were like yin and yang, these two balancing. Takeaway 2 kind of relates to that first one, is because of our clear brief, we decided we weren't going to touch the exterior walls. That house was 110 squares, and so if you've got 110 squares, rather than thinking about how can I push out to 150 because I need this and I need that, think about how can you use your existing floor print better. And so push back on designers when they say, oh, let's push this wall out, or let's change this, or let's do that. Like, ask, do you really need to? What are you going to gain by that extra meter? I remember on one of the concepts they wanted to move one of the walls 200 mils to make the bathroom feel better, and I was like, guys, I'm not ripping down a wall and moving it 200. I'm not spending the money to rip a wall down and move it 200 mils. You will not notice in the long run. Takeaway 3 is all about getting it finished. Builders are shocking for living in houses that are perpetually never finished. And I knew this, and I knew that I'm that type of person. So I did 2 things. For the big reno, we moved out. And I had a firm deadline of we've got to be back before Levi is born. And what that meant is that when we moved back into the house, we were moving back into a completed house. We all know a builder who is living in a perpetual building site. So where possible, move out, even if it's for 6 weeks, or, go and stay with friends and family. And honestly, it'll make a big difference. If you're doing it on the go slow, just do one room at a time, because it's fun to start new rooms. It's exciting and it's cool to pull stuff down, but it's the putting it back together, it's the finishing, it's the final touches that is so hard and take so long. And so do one space at a time, and don't move on until you've finished that one space. Let's head back to the beach. At the time we had a pretty strict criteria, and it felt like we were never going to find a home. One of the key parts of our criteria was we didn't want to spend more than 300,000. We ended up actually paying 304 from memory for the place, but it met all the other criteria. What was our criteria at the time, Kate, for that house?
Oh, we had to have a front door that did not open up into the lounge or like living areas. It had needed to have an entrance space. Needed to have 3 bedrooms. It needed to be close to town, that's Upper Hutt town. Backyard.
Yeah.
Not fussy about it being large, because really these days most people have chopped up that extra bit to put another house on.
It was 440 square meters, small section, with heaps of work to do. Like when we did the due diligence on the property, we realized the fence was in the wrong location, and not just by a couple of 100 mils, by 1.5 meters at the front and as much as 3 meters at the back. Because of that, we also had to, I broke up an entire area by hand with concrete and replaced it with lawn. But it meant that we reclaimed a whole bunch of our backyard and turned it, what we believe, into a nice, cozy little area.
More importantly, it was a usable space for our kids and for our family. Like, we built a deck.
Tell me what you're up to.
Well, I'm building a river.
A river? How do you build a river?
Which we had people over on and sunbathed on and barbecues, whatever else. And it was a space where we could see our kids playing. And
not only was it Katie and I's first house, but it's also where we became a family. You know, Jacob was born, but that was really started, you know, he learned to ride his bike. Keep going, pedal, pedal, pedal. Jacob helped out a lot with the renovation as well, which was real awesome. And
awesome, man. And probably added to the time it took.
Huh? Yeah. Look at this swirly rock.
Hey, that's cool, eh?
whoa, what's that?
It's a rock with swirly stuff on it.
Okay.
Mom, can you?
I've been a builder now for almost 10 years, but a couple of little glimpses. This is the first time I've really talked in depth about a project I've done. I want to thank everyone who was involved in this project. There's way too many of you to name, but you know who you are, and I really do appreciate the input. What are you building, Jake?
Sandcastle.
And it's got a bridge, and a road, and a moat.
Yeah.
Cool. In typical Wellington fashion, the weather has turned on us. It is now windy and cold. So we're off. Boys are happy though. Good day at the beach. Was that fun, Jake?
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, click the notification bell. I'll see you guys next week.